How come? Obviously referring to the April opportunities specific to Artemis II.
Right. This is a complicated answer. I don't know that I would have the exact mechanics behind it, but it has a lot to do with orbital mechanics and where we are in terms of the Earth and the Moon relationship. Like we said, we're trying to get on that free return trajectory, and so it has a lot to do with when we can do the perigee and apogee raised burns and the translunar injection. So there's a lot of math that goes behind these launch windows and why they shift and move, and why we just so happen to be in the evening for the April launch windows.
Yep. You did answer it well. All right. And before we asked you guys a question, who would you take to the moon with you? Would that be a bestie, a pet, family member, or seasoned astronaut? Overwhelmingly seasoned astronaut. So, Nicole, you and I are going to the moon.
Was that your answer as well?
That was totally my answer. Again, I thought my husband would not like that answer because he'd want to come along too. But I think if asked, he would also say seasoned astronaut. So
that's fair. Like we said, there's a lot of training that goes behind it. These guys can react to anything that comes their way. And so, yeah, if you don't have all that training, maybe you do want someone that's a little bit more experienced.
Yep. So correct answer, everyone. And now we have another question for you. What do you want to know about living in Orion? What the crew eats, how the crew sleeps, how to fly the vehicle, or how free time is spent? Another great question.
Yes, I'm excited to see what they say.
Yeah, so head to NASA's Instagram or Twitch accounts to vote, and we'll share the results as soon as possible. And while you're doing that, remember to also sign up to be a virtual guest for this mission. Just go to the link we'll pull up on your screen. As a virtual guest, you will get mission-specific information, notifications of any schedule changes, and curated resources straight to your inbox. You will also receive commemorative stamps for your virtual passport after launch and splashdown. Again, we really, really want you guys to engage with us, engage with this mission, come along with us for the ride. So yeah, take advantage of these opportunities to be a part of it.
Yes, it's a mission for all.
And so back in the suit, no, not the suit-up room, the white room. Well, they're suiting up. You can see why I might have slipped that up. So they are continuing to put on gloves. Reed and Jeremy look like they've been checked. Again, they put on their gloves, their helmets. They've taken off those coverings on their shoes now that they're about to get into Orion. And then suit technicians are also helping Christina and Victor. And they're in this particular order, actually, because this is the order in which they're going to ingress into Orion. Again, we have Reed, Jeremy, then Victor, last Christina.
Yeah, and that just has to do, like you said, with the seat orientation. So as the astronauts sit down and lay back in the capsule, the left side will be Reed, and then below him will be Jeremy. So that's why they're going to get in first, to create space for then Victor and Christina to get in.
And let's talk a little bit now about the closeout team. We saw a few of these folks also in the suit-up room. Suit technicians were in there, again, to make sure that they get into the suits properly. And then a couple of them came out to the pad here to, again, do the same thing. Hey, are you comfortable in these suits? Is everything is as you expected? And then these folks here will help them get into Orion, buckle up. And so we were talking a little bit about their attire, specially made for what they're doing right now.
Yeah, so these, they almost look like, the equivalent of a flight suit, right? They're fire resistant. They've got the straps on the back for emergencies that mimic the same straps that the astronauts have on their suits, so that you can use the same exact equipment in an emergency egress from the pad, for example. So we can use the same equipment to get everybody safely away from the pad as required or if needed.
Yeah, always thinking about those contingencies, how to very quickly, if there were an emergency, get everyone out, not just the astronauts, but also the closeout crew, if an emergency was happening while they were still at the pad. And so those suits, flame retardant, Also, when we see them crawl into Orion, you will notice that they are on their knees quite a bit, so built-in knee pads. Really a thoughtful design for the purpose that they're serving today.
Yeah, they're functional, which is exactly what we want, but also they're pretty classy looking, so we did a good job with the design.
I was going to say, they actually look like, the outfits that car racers wear, right?
Yeah.
And then when I said that to the lead of the closeout crew, he's number one if we do see him tailor hose, he said, well, actually, we are kind of like a pit crew, like they're very quickly moving through the operations so that not a lot of time, not more time is spent at the pad than is needed because this is a fully fueled rocket, Nicole.
Right, yeah, we want to minimize the time that we have more humans up in the White Room, but also safely and efficiently get the astronauts ingressed into the capsule. And so that's their main job. That's so yeah, I like the pit crew analogy, works great.
And so, Nicole, as we get ready to see them ingress, I know you'll be, again, an invaluable source as we talk through this part of the launch countdown because you've been inside a mock-up of the Orion spacecraft. And I know that because you texted me a photo that you took, this selfie in the mock-up, and little did you know I was going to put it in this broadcast.
Yeah, this was actually a really wonderful opportunity. Last week, our flight control team at Johnson Space Center hosted an open house of the Orion mock-up there in the space vehicle mock-up facility. And so I got to spend some time in the capsule with some of the flight controllers who are actually sitting on console right now and talk to them about everything inside the mock-up. So you can see I've got a bump cap on. It's like a small hard hat. There are a lot of, metal corners and things, and we are still squishy humans at the end of the day. And so they want you to be careful while you're moving around in there. But I got to see, how the crew will ingress. I got to look at the umbilical and the seat straps, and I got to see, the emergency equipment and the stowage and the toilet. I got to see it all. Got to talk about everything. It was pretty cool. It was a really great time. Michael and Bruce were great with me. They answered all of my questions.
Yeah, because it's really good to be able to give that perspective because, and as you guys will see, yes, we do have cameras inside Orion and we'll, of course, take you in, but it doesn't give you a true feeling or idea of how big the space is, how things are configured. Again, like when we see them go in, they're actually on their backs.
Yep.
So, again, it's just hard to really get a sense of the inside there, but Nicole is going to really help walk us through that.
Yeah, you said they're on their backs, and, you have to somehow get there, and so they're actually going to almost barrel roll onto their shoulder to get onto their backs and their feet up on those leg rests. That actually, Andre's holding onto right there. You can see Andre number 2's inside getting everything ready for them. And actually, those leg rests for the pilot and commander seat will come off once they get into orbit to create some more space for them.
And it looks like we're getting ready to ingress here. Yep, thumbs up from Reed. Everybody configured with their suits, and so in we go. They actually get inside by walking backwards. That's the easiest way to get in, right, Nicole?
Yeah, so he will step down right over the flywheel or the exercise equipment that they've got in there. We'll talk to that in a second. And then you actually step down right on top of the toilet area backwards. You can see him going now. Oh, and he's already turned around and walking in. You can see Dre's protecting his helmet and his visor there from all that metal.
Yeah.
It's a tight squeeze. But they've done this a lot, so Reed's already all the way across the capsule.
Yeah, that was fast. Impressive, Reed. Impressive. That's why you're the commander. Oh, a heart there from Jeremy again. Yep, Canada.
Yeah.
Canada is about to get into Orion. And so you mentioned Dre. Why don't we talk a little bit about him? So that was NASA astronaut Andre Douglas. And he is actually one of the backup crew members for the Artemis II mission. He trained alongside the primary crew and will step in if any of the 3 astronauts are unable to fly.
Yeah, Dre's actually a classmate of mine, so fellow fly.
Oh,
yeah, so we've worked very closely together. It's exciting to see him in this role.
Yeah, Virginia native, selected as an astronaut candidate in December 2021. He completed his training in March 2024 and was subsequently named as the Artemis II backup crew member just months later in July. Before joining NASA, Andre worked at the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory, where he specialized in spacecraft systems engineering. His work focused on the systems that help spacecraft know where they are and how to get where they need to go. So obviously critical for missions to the moon.
Yeah, he's a wicked smart guy. He's got like 15 degrees, I think, or something.
Oh, my.
So.
And so now here we are back inside Orion, where the closeout crew, each one with either Reed or Jeremy. So it looks like Andre is with Reed. And this is a camera shot of behind Reed's head. So Reed, while Andre is buckling him in, it's a 5-point harness, Reed was configuring his control panel.
Yeah, the displays. We're getting the displays ready so that they can monitor all of the systems and monitor the launch as they go. Christina there signing the wall.
Got to put away the pen. The pen could be foreign object debris or FOD, which is bad for NASA. We definitely want to make sure that we keep track of everything and we know where everything is, because the smallest thing could prevent us from launching or affect the equipment out there.
Yeah, and you'll actually see that most of their tools will be tethered as well, so nothing can fall through a crack or drop.
And so as soon as Jeremy and Reed are good to go in their seats and connected to their communication umbilicals, as Daryl had said before, we will start hearing the loops, the audio mission loops, specifically Orion to Earth 1, which is the communication loop that the crew communicate on to the different teams supporting launch today. And as we said when we were in suit up, after they do communication checks, again, suit leak checks to make sure that nothing went wrong between the suit up room and here, and also to specifically connect them to the Orion systems.
Yes, this will be an integrated test with Orion and the suits to make sure the entire system is working and ready for flight.
And so you'll notice Reed and when Victor sits down, Reed and Victor are the only ones with the display panels in front of them. Jeremy and Christina will actually share a personal computer device, and that will be on Jeremy's leg, and that's how they'll continue to follow along with telemetry and data.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. This is one of the technology demos that we're doing, and so they're going to plug into the system, and it'll be a screen repeater on that device for them so that they can see what the pilot and commander are seeing.
OTC at MS2 is online for context.
This is OTC. Repeat.
MS2 ready for comm checks.
The MS2 ready for comm checks. MS2 OTC Orion Earth 1 comm check.
OTC, it's MS2. Have you loud and clear on 1.
You're welcome, sir.
And so that was the Orion test conductor speaking with Jeremy Hansen, again, mission specialist 2 for this mission. So his communication check over, you heard him say 1, Orion to Earth 1, has been completed, a successful test. The rest of the crew here waiting in the white room. Again, as Nicole was saying, a little tight there for all of those folks. So Christina and Victor will wait until Reed and Jeremy are done getting buckled in.
Yeah, I think 4 astronauts and 4 suit techs would be a tight fit in that capsule.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at Bill. He's number 3 there, the suit technician there. He is kneeling where Christina will be in order to get Jeremy situated.
OTC asked, commander's ready for comm checks.
OTC copies. Commander.
NTD, Mexico 212, comm check.
NTD, have you loud and clear here as well.
I'll catch FTS on 194, thank you.
Commander, OTC Orion Earth 1.
OTC, CDR has you loud and clear.
Good comm. Welcome, sir.
And there you have it, a successful comm check with Commander Reed Wiseman. And so...
And CDR, NTD on Orion Earth 1 for comm check.
Yes, Gary Bush, I got you loud and clear, NTD.
And good to have you on board. Good luck today.
And so now these two closeout crew members will finish up what they're doing here. Again, Nicole, walk us through what is happening here. They're connecting umbilicals, is what we said.
Yeah, they're strapping them in, so they're getting their restraints connected. It's a 5-point harness with a quick release, and then they're connecting the umbilical, which has actually 4 different connections. So it's got the air in, air out, the water for cooling, and then the comm as well, the communication cable. So they're going to make sure that all of those connections are good to go, make sure the crew's receiving the cooling and the air, and then we heard the comm check as well. So they're just making sure the umbilical connection was good to go, getting them strapped in and ready, and then they will move on to Victor and Christina.
And so while we wait for that to happen, why don't we get another check of the launch countdown milestones with Daryl and the launch team?
All right, welcome back into the firing room 1 here, where some of the launch team is having some pizza that was brought by the administrator. That was nice of Administrator Jared Isaacman to bring that by for the launch team to enjoy. We're L-minus 3 hours and 44 minutes and counting as you can see the crew ingressing into the spacecraft. There are a number of things that are happening on the timeline. Of course, the closeout crew, they liken themselves to like an F1 pit crew, working quickly, methodically, carefully, as they go through their procedures to get the astronauts ingressed. Overall, there's a little bit of timeline pressure, right? There's only a certain amount of time, as you see the astronauts going into Orion, only a certain amount of time that they can spend on their backs. They will be there for a few hours, right? So we're sitting at 2:40 p.m. Eastern time, and the window opens at 6:24 p.m. Eastern time and runs until 8:24 p.m. Eastern time. So 4 or 5 hours or more on their backs, and then they'll hopefully lift off for a launch. So of course the crew is mindful at the time. They don't want to slip into the window if they don't have to, and so they're keeping a tight lock on the margin, the amount of time that they're working there. And there's a heart from Christina Cook. Great to see that as she gets ready to get into the Orion spacecraft, one that they named Integrity. It certainly fits this crew from what I've observed. Now, right now, the rocket's tanks, they're in what's called replenish mode. So another factor for this closeout crew is, and the crew themselves, this is a fully tanked, almost ready to go rocket. It's got all the propellant it needs to go to the moon. It's just a matter of getting the astronauts in, getting them configured, and getting all the systems, the high energy systems, bringing them all online in order to launch this rocket. As they sit there, there is propellant boil off that's happening. All tanks are at 100%, but the propellant, which is liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen, those two propellants are minus 423 for hydrogen and minus 297 for the liquid oxygen. They are boiling right now. They've been boiling the entire time when they've been in the tank. And that is vented out, as you can see. When we look to a wider shot of the rocket, you can see the venting and the little wisp of of clouds that are coming out from the top of the rocket in the middle part of the rocket. And that is because just like you boil water on your stove, those propellants are boiling. Of course, their boiling point is much lower than water, and so it doesn't take much for them to boil. But just as if you were to leave your pot of water on the stove and just leave it there, what would happen? Well, it would completely boil off, and all the water would be gone. Just basically turned into water vapor inside your house. Well, it's the same case here. So we are continually replenishing the rocket with propellant, liquid hydrogen and oxygen, running from those propellant lines that you see there going into the rocket. So that continues to go well. Overall look from the launch team here, this has been a very smooth countdown so far. The cryo tanking went exceptionally well, and the launch team is really in a good mood right now. Cautiously optimistic, understanding that with a system this complex, you can have something unexpected happen. But to this point, the firing room is really encouraged by what they've seen so far, and are especially excited to see these astronauts getting inside the spacecraft. L-minus 3 hours and 40 minutes and counting until we open up that window for launch. For now, we'll send it back to Megan and Nicole.
Thank you, Daryl. And, he mentioned that the crew decided to name Orion Integrity, and it was not something they came to easily. They really wanted to put in a lot of thought, and what they came down to is integrity is a value that NASA embodies, and also individually they felt like integrity is something that speaks powerfully to them.
Yeah, and I think the other part of integrity, it just represents the humility and the professionalism behind the entire team that built this rocket and got us here today. And so it's a fitting name for this capsule.
Yeah, like I said, I think the crew said it took them a little bit to decide on what they wanted, but I think they made the perfect choice.
I agree.
And so as the countdown to launch continues, we are reminded that this is an agency-wide effort to make today's launch attempt possible. We invited people across our NASA family to wish our crew a safe journey.
Go Team Artemis! Go Team Artemis!
3, 2, 1, blast off!
Have a great flight. Godspeed. We'll get you around the moon and home.
If I had a message